Welcome to our first ever Sibling Showdown on the FanSpeak Network. I'm your host, Megan Shoup. You can find me on Twitter at Megs08DFS. And I'm, of course, joined by my sibling, my brother, Steve. Steve, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Looking
Good.
forward to making some lineups.
Nice. And you can follow Steve at SteveOSpeak on Twitter. Steve and I are going to talk about the Game of the Week showdown every week because the primetime showdowns are very well covered. And so we thought it'd be fun to talk about the game of the week. And this week, of course, the game of the week is the London game between the New York Giants and the Green Bay Packers. So, Steve, I know you and I both love playing showdown. What do you like in this game, or how do you see this London game playing out?
Yeah, so I think you have it's an interesting game because basically everyone on New York is on the injury report.
Yeah.
Including both their quarterbacks, Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor. I think it will be Daniel Jones, obviously.
Right.
But it sounds like Galladay will be out. Probably Kadarius Toney will be out, as he's been the last couple of weeks. But Wan'Dale Robinson might be back, and Richie James is going to be there. But it's tough on that side. And then on the Packers side, it's picking what receivers. You could go with the higher up ones, Lazard and Dobbs, but Randall Cobb's made some big plays. Aaron Rodgers keeps talking about when you get Christian Watson more involved. We know there's no Sammy Watkins anymore, so it is just those four guys to pick from, and which are their running backs, because it's been Aaron Jones is the better play, but Dylan's out there. Dylan's getting the time on the field, so it's just a matter of time before he has a big fantasy day.
Right. And Robert Tonyan, too. He likes targeting. Yeah. He's been getting more targets, got a touchdown last week, so I think he's in play as well. Obviously, as far as, seeing the game play out, I know I am playing or going to play this showdown under the assumption that the Packers win fairly easily. I assume you are as well.
Yeah, I think the Giants, the 3-1, they played better than I think anyone's expected. I think Brian Daboll deserves a lot of credit, especially with all the injuries they've had. But boy, they've had a very, very easy schedule.
It's been an easy road to get to 3-1. Yeah.
So I think the Packers are a much better opponent, especially a Packers team that they started out of the gate kind of rough this year, but I think they're getting better. And I know they made it close with New England, but yeah, I just like Green Bay even. Though it's a weird game, them going to London and all that. This is not in Lambeau, obviously.
You still see it as like a slow-paced game, though, right? I mean, Green Bay has been playing slow, and obviously, how many passing attempts did Daniel Jones have last week? Just like it felt like a handful. I mean, they just ran the ball.
Yeah, well, I mean, he left the game early. Tyrod came in, then Tyrod got concussed, and he had to come back in. So yeah, 13 passing attempts. So
and this offense runs through Saquon Barkley. So
yeah. So Barkley's the guy that you want from this offense, whether it's in the captain or in the flex. I think you need. It's tough to get away from Barkley.
Right. But I do see it as more kind of a slower pace game. I don't see it as this like high-powered shootout where we need to get access to a lot of receiving options or anything like that necessarily.
Yeah, no, and the Packers defense have been a little up and down this year, but there's a lot of talent on that team. They've invested a lot of high draft picks over the years, which is part of the reason why the receiving core is a little undermanned right now. But there's a lot of talent, so they haven't totally put it together. I mean, they really shut down the Bears, and it could be a game like that because I think the Giants' offense is kind of similar to the Bears. So, really good running back. Not a lot of talent elsewhere, and a quarterback who does more with his legs than his arm. So,
it's kind of a good model to play off of the Packers.
I think we
could
see
game.
It similar to that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's jump over to DraftKings. We're going to look at pricing, talk through captains, flex plays, lineup construction we like, and then we'll build a lineup to end the show. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
All right. Let's get us over there. All right. So here we're looking at the prices. Here, of course, starting at the top, we've got Barkley as the highest priced at 11.8. Then Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones priced very closely together, and then Daniel Jones, and then the Packers receivers, and then obviously just goes down there from there. So, Steve, who are like your top 3 or 4 captains?
So I really like Aaron Jones, and just from a game script similar to that Bears where they could be needing to run a lot late. I think Alan Lazard is showing that he is Aaron Rodgers' true number one. But Dobbs is getting some, deep shots. He's getting some end zone targets. They like Dobbs, so I think those are the three that I really like. If I were to pivot off of it, I think AJ Dillon is a nice pivot because, like I said, he's getting the carries. If he has like 2 rushing touchdowns,
Hmm.
you know,
Right.
you're just talking a massive score here. And I don't think, yes, Barkley could maybe get that, but Barkley's priced so much higher. Where say Dillon gets like 23 DK points and Barkley gets 28, you still might want Dillon in the captain just from a salary standpoint.
Right.
So, Barkley's really the only guy that we're really worried about for like a 30-point game. Obviously Rodgers, if he wants to, throw for 303, he could, but he just hasn't had to.
Yeah. Look at that. 17. Well, the first game
Yeah.
terrible in Minnesota, but 17 points each game basically.
Yeah. And so I think he's going to be in that 250-ish to 275, maybe 3 touchdowns, but it's just getting you, 15, 17
Yeah. He's
points.
so efficient. It's just, but there's the ceiling is just
Yeah.
not even
Maybe 20
close.
points if you're lucky. So I don't.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely in play for flex because raw points are going to matter here. But I just don't think he's a great captain option.
So your favorite captains would be Aaron Jones, Alan Lazard, Romeo Dubs, maybe Dillon, maybe Barkley.
And then Barkley's
Um,
the one giant that I really would play as
right.
captain.
Right. Okay. Now let's talk flex plays. I mean, other flex plays. Obviously, all those guys are going to be considerations for flex plays. Who are some other flex plays? And obviously, let's find some salary savers down low too.
Yeah. So I think you can look at, for instance, Randall Cobb. He's not getting a massive target share, but partly because Aaron Rodgers is only throwing 30 times a game. But he's
6'2"
doing.
is pretty. Do you feel like 6'2" is pretty expensive? This is where our sibling debate comes in.
Yeah,
That feels pricey for
it
Randall
it is,
Cobb.
but he's getting some deeper targets. Some he's got
I'm
some
just surprised it's pricey.
he's had some big plays this year. So it's if one of those big plays ends up in the end zone, add a touchdown to his score each of these last 3 weeks, and you're talking 13, 14 points somewhere in that ballpark. At 6'2", that might be fine.
I think I'd prefer Tanyan at a whatever
Yeah, I mean,
thousand
I think
less. I
I
mean,
think
he's
Tanyan, Watson are definitely options as well.
what's Watson's price? Where is
Oh,
he?
he's pretty cheap.
Oh yeah, he's all the way down to 4,600. Okay.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, but only what 3 targets the last 2 games,
yeah,
or yeah. So, I mean, it's got to get there on a lot less unless his targets share goes up. How about any cheaper giants that you're interested in?
so with likely Kadarius Toney out, Richie James, Wandell Robinson, I think are both very playable. I think Daniel Bellinger is a cheap giant tight end. He's been involved these last couple weeks, so I like him as a solid
Yeah,
solid
five
floor
targets
play.
and 3 targets. Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
bad for
Um,
2,400.
and if they're ever near the end zone, he should get a target or two. And then, of course, Graham Gano. Graham
Oh,
Gano was big in the
he won some
Cowboys showdown.
people. Yeah, exactly.
Um, and,
I mean, he's putting up points better than the receiver 17, 15, and 10 the last 3 weeks.
yeah, because they can't finish drives. And
Exactly.
so,
He's like their all star.
he's a good kicker. I mean, he's been a good kicker
He's a
for
great kicker.
12
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
12 plus years. And, he's accurate. He can hit from 50.
And that's the
So
key, being able to hit those long ones. I don't know what
yeah,
the weather will be like
and
out there in London on
that is
Sunday.
the one thing. And I think from my understanding is even though the soccer team plays on a grass field, they're going to have turf for the game. So
Okay.
you don't know how well the kickers are going to be used to it because it's probably different turf than they've kicked off of, and so there could be some issues there a little bit. And I wouldn't play Mason Crosby, even though kickers have been very well in a lot of showdowns. He's just at this stage, he's older. He's not hitting anything long.
Yeah.
Last year he struggled from like beyond 45. His long this year is 40 yards. So
and the Packers are more efficient to finish drives too.
That too, but even if you figure that they're going to be in scoring position more,
right.
look at the Kansas City game where the Kansas City kicker,
Mm-hmm.
can't remember his name right now. He was in the optimal lineup.
Right.
It's just you still need him to be hitting longer field
Some
goals.
long ones, yeah. Well, what about defense? I assume for me it's Packers, not Giants defense. Aaron Rodgers is way too efficient, but I have a lot of interest in the Packers defense. And same for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Rodgers, outside of week 1, he does not take sacks, does not throw interceptions. So yeah, and I think the Packers defense, like I said, they've invested so much. You look at the last three weeks, 7, 11, 9 points. This is a defense that can get after it. They haven't forced a ton of turnovers yet, but the talent is there to do so.
Sure.
They have some big playmakers in that secondary, really strong pass rushers. So I think that's coming, and we've seen Daniel Jones turn it over quite a bit.
I was going to say, I think this is the game to do it too. Okay, well, we've talked captains, we've talked flex plays, we've talked value plays. Now let's talk lineup construction. What kind of lineup construction do you see? We like the Packers. Are you thinking more 4-2, 5-1 kind of Packers lineup builds in this? I think that's probably going to be more common, but if you go overweight on the 5-1, that certainly never is as common as you think. So what do you think? What are you liking?
Yeah, no, I think so. I also think the other thing that I'm going to lean to just be more different is I probably won't really have any Daniel Jones. And, I know he ended up being in that optimal in that Cowboys game,
right.
but it wasn't by much. CeeDee Lamb has one more catch, or Noah Brown has one more catch. And basically anyone could have topped him at that point.
If Cooper Rush would have, connected on a little bit more.
So, this past week he ran for 2 touchdowns and he got 21 points, but it's like,
that's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. He's dealing with an ankle injury. And like I said, the Packers defense, I think, is just too good. So I'm guessing he'll be owned more than he should. So I'm just.
He has been running more than I expected this year. At least the last couple of games, are getting what, he's been getting, anywhere from 2 to 11. Let's see. He had anywhere from 20 to almost 80 yards on the ground. So that's a lot more than I thought. Obviously, the last two, 79 and 68 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. I don't know. I don't see that sustainable, like you said, especially with the Packers defense and his ankle injury. So I'm with you on that. I like Daniel Jones as a fade. I think that'll make it unique in itself. So so do you lean more 4-2, 5-1 Packers more likely?
I think probably generally 4-2. 5-1s can get there, and this could be the way. But part of the thing with the 5 or 4-2 is Giants do have some of the better, cheaper options.
Yeah, that's true.
Bellinger, who we mentioned, Graham Gano, those other receivers. So that helps allow you to get Barkley and or some of those bigger Packers.
I agree, and I think like we said, just by fading Daniel Jones, you're kind of making yourself more unique. So I actually think, and I could be wrong, we'll see when ownership is released, I wouldn't be surprised if Daniel Jones is more owned than Aaron Rodgers, just because people are very drawn to that rushing floor.
And he offers significant savings from Rodgers, which people are going to need if you want to get guys like Barkley and Aaron Jones in your lineup.
Right. Well, we can't build a full lineup, but do you want to at least put 5 guys in and see what we can come up with to start to build a lineup here?
Sure.
Okay. I'm a nice sister. I will let you pick the captain, and we will. How about we take turns building from there?
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. From a captain standpoint, I'm going to go Allen Lazard.
I like it. I kind of figured you were going to go there. You were very high on him all summer, best ball. I like it. I think he is always going to. I really do think, despite Romeo Doubs' emergence and he's obviously building trust with Aaron Rodgers, Allen Lazard still is, I think, the number 1 guy in Green Bay. So I like it. I like that and I think he's going to come in lower owned than like an Aaron Jones and others. So I like that. I'm gonna just, you don't have to. I mean, you could do a no quarterback lineup in this type of game, but I do think Aaron Rodgers makes some sense here, just with that efficiency. If he's getting 17 to 20 points, I think those raw points are going to matter. And I like him fading Daniel Jones. I like Aaron Rodgers to pair with Lazard there. So I'll let you make the next pick.
Well, I will save some money and go to Graham Gano.
I love it. Ooh, got a little aggressive there. Okay. All right, that leaves us with 7,100. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to spend the money. So then we'll figure out what we have to do. I mean, I think raw points, we need to get the raw points of Saquon Barkley. The offense runs through Barkley. So he's 1,100. He's expensive, but let's get him in there. That leaves us $4,750 per player. We're only going to fill out one more. I'll let you pick one more here.
Yeah. Oh boy. Does not leave a lot.
I know, and it is a scary fade to then, not really be able to, obviously play Aaron Jones in this lineup. So that's something to consider, and those are things you can mess around with as you play with this lineup. If you want to start with a little Lazard captain build, maybe you don't go Barkley. Maybe you go with some of the cheaper Giants guys. But in this particular build, I decided to go Barkley. So who do you like to round out our lineup for this, and then we can let the people decide what they like to finish it.
I'll go with I'll force people to go cheap, and I will go with Rodgers' good friend Randall Cobb.
Wow. Okay. All right. That puts you, in the range down here. We mentioned Bellinger. What's your take on Slayton? Actually, now that I see where that just puts us into that range with all the other injuries, is he still going to get run?
I mean, that's the problem. Is he's just, they've had injuries all year, and he's still not getting a ton of run. It's weird. The new staff doesn't like him. He actually produced for the old team. It was, a couple years ago, was one of Daniel Jones' favorite deep targets. But yeah, for whatever reason, guys like David Sills been above him. Richie James. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, but I think he's worth the dart throw. But yeah, it's especially if Tony and Galladay are out like expected.
Okay. All right. Well, that's our lineup to start. Allen Lazard, Aaron Rodgers, Graham Gano, Saquon Barkley, Randall Cobb. Will let you fill out the rest. We're going to do this every week. We are going to talk the game of the week showdown, whether it's a game overseas or kind of America's game of the week in probably the 4:00 window. We're going to break it down. In future weeks, hopefully we'll be able to use Run the Sims to help us make our decisions. Any final thoughts on this game, Steve?
No, I think I think we covered it pretty well, and I do think. We've seen some weird things happen in London games before, so that should be noted. But I think this is definitely the Packers game.
All right, I would agree. All right, thank you guys so much for joining us. Good luck building your lineups. Before you get out of here, be sure to like this episode, subscribe to the FanSpeak Network. Again, we're rolling out more content and shows for daily fantasy sports betting each and every week. So be sure to subscribe to the FanSpeak Network. And thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.